Hey everybody, Jacob with Scooters Lawn Care. I wanted to do a quick follow-up video on my video. We're going to call it part 2 of Bad Things Happen. I'd recently watched a video of Johnny Moe, his part 2, Solo and Proud, and also had a comment on my first video that kind of went along with what he was saying. By all means, I know it takes all kinds. I know solo is, for some people, it's less stress, less worry. Definitely just wanted to kind of put it out there, the thought of what I was talking about building, so I was kind of clear on what I meant. Now, depending on the size, now this is a personal opinion, depending on the size of your business, some of the things that I heard Johnny Moe and the other guy that left a message in the comments on that video had said, talking about having a main foreman quit and that just devastating your business. I wanted to touch on that. The comment I left back was kind of a little bit long, and I kind of said how I felt about that. When I talk about building a big business and building something that can carry you through and something that can support your family, I'm kind of basing this off of where I came from. I came from a multi-million-dollar body shop that runs extremely efficient, that works on standard operating procedures, that has all, procedures that kind of build and follow on everything. And I'm lucky enough to call the owner my friend. So, we go out to lunch, we talk from time to time. I would say I see him once a month. And we've kind of talked about what it's like to really, really grind on a business and get it to that point. A business that's somewhere in the $250,000 to $500,000 range, I really get that. Yes, if one main guy left, it could cripple you, it could hurt you. My thought's to push past that and to try to build a multi-million-dollar business. Now, I'm not saying this is the answer for everybody. It's definitely not going to be what some people want to do. It's definitely going to be more than some people want to have. But I know for a fact that business, you could have any of the guys leave there, and none of them would be happy to hear that, but you could have any of the guys leave there and it would not cripple that business. It wouldn't change a thing. I've seen guys come and go that were big players while I was there. I worked there for 4 years. You might have a small hiccup. Some of the main things that caused hiccups in the business were just implementing new procedures and trying to get them where they work for 27 some odd people in the business. So that's kind of my thoughts. Maybe once you get over that 1 million mark, you start getting to the multi-million mark. There's not just one foreman. There's tiers of management. There's things that spread the load and procedures that spread the load. And, there is a lot of stress. Johnny hit the nail on the head. Employee stress. Until you get to a point where that load's been spread enough, and and that takes doing it right. And I'm not saying I am, and hopefully I am, but there's gonna be a lot of stress. There's gonna be things, but one of the big benefits, one of the other things I wanted to touch on that I feel about building a business like that and having the procedures and having the things to make it a turnkey, you're almost creating a franchise. Well, a franchise has value, and that's why people buy them. So if you're creating that out of your business, something that someone can come in and call it more of a turnkey system, now your business has value. We're talking about buying out a solo guy right now. There's no value in a small business. There's no money to buy it for. Nothing is worth anything. Typically a small business doesn't have that many procedures. It's one guy running the show, doing the work, and that just is what it is. An investor doesn't want to come in and buy that because most investors are not going to do the work. They're going to try to come in and run a business. So that's kind of my take on those two things. The other thing I wanted to hit on was I'd heard multiple times that what I had happen to me was very, very rare. That's right. It was rare, super rare. Probably, hopefully, everybody that watches this video, chances are it's probably not going to happen to you. And someone had mentioned that to me, that it was rare, and that most solo guys can work through things, sprains, breaks, pain. I get that. I get that you can work through anything, that you can be tough. I've been there, understand. I broke my collarbone. I went back to stocking shelves after taking Vicodin, and every time I lifted a box, I can hear my collarbone grinding. 2 days later, I wake up with a bruise that goes down past my chest from all the wounding and blood drainage that was causing from that bruised area. I get that. I've walked in walking boots. I raced motocross. I broke my back when I was 14. I've done every kind of damage to my body, and I know all about pushing through it, and that is something that you can do. I get. What I was talking about wasn't breaks and sprains. Hey, look at the rise these days of cancer and heart attacks. Some of this stuff will just take you down. And those are just two things that I'm just popped in my mind. Some of this stuff will take you down where you have no say. If you have a heart attack and your heart's weak, if I was to stay in the condition I was in before and I tried to tough it out and work, if my heart was to stay like that, toughing it out could cause me to die. So toughing it out isn't always a good option. I want to be there for my family. I want to be there for my kid. I've got my second son on the way, So I just want to make sure everybody looks at it from every angle. Do whatever you want. Everything, anything you're comfortable with and what you really want to do, pursue it. If you want to be solo for the rest of your life, hey man, that's awesome. I never said that was bad, and I did not want that to come off like that. In my eyes, I see more security in the way I want to do it, but that doesn't mean that's right. I could be completely off base. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about those things that do happen a lot. People have a lot of heart attacks. There is a ton of cancer. A lot of this stuff's being caused by the horrible food we consume today. The things that are in the food is insane. The bad things that are out there that we're introduced to are insane. The chemicals we work around, and if you're not following the proper procedures and you're getting them on your skin, you're absorbing them. That is bad. That causes things like this. And there's stuff that happens to you that you cannot work through. There's stuff that will cause you to not be able to do physical labor for the rest of your life, but you still might have the potential to work out of an office, oversee crews, oversee a business, help it move forward, get to a point where it takes your mind, not your muscles, to do most of the stuff. And maybe get to the point where you can do whatever you want in the business, potentially have an operations manager that keeps the whole thing turning. And there's as far as guys getting hired, you're going to go through a ton of them. You're going to have problems with them. You're going to fire more than you hire, almost just trying to find the right guys. But when you do, right now we've got guys that love what they do. They are in here on time. They do not show up late. If they do, they feel bad. If they screw up, they feel bad. They want the best, and I want the best for them. I want to treat them like gold, and So I don't know, it was just something I wanted to put out because I'd watched a couple other videos, I'd heard some comments that I'd got, and I just wanted to get a little more of the feelings I had for this off my chest. The thing about employees that you mentioned, that there's a problem and there's stress in it, and then you show up and none of your employees are there. Well, if that's the case, you're gonna need to fire them and get good employees. There needs to be more than just, 3 of my guys didn't show up today. I fired all of them, and now I've got to frantically look for new employees. There's got to be a hiring procedure. We try to put out job applications every week, and every other week do interviews to make sure you've got somebody on the bench, to make sure that there's good talent out there that you've already looked at, and you're trying to brief them and get them into the system and get them ready if you do need them. There's just a lot to think about, a lot of different things to do. And what I was talking about and what I thought was safer was a big business could take a bigger hit in my eyes. But I like the stress of doing it. It's what gets me up in the morning. I love grinding on a hard day's work and trying to make the big puzzle work together and trying to keep the crews running, even though, we've only got 2 now, but probably going to hopefully have 3 or 4 by the end of the summer. I like that. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to make money. It's a challenge to get the guys profitable. It's a challenge in figuring out how to do it. So yeah, that I had to say this. I'd heard some of the other opinions about being solo, and I never said that's wrong. I definitely want to tell everybody that yes, that might be less stressful for you. I just see value in building a business that can sell someday, and building a business that can be systematized enough to operate without you. And I believe a business that is systematized and operates without you is not a $250,000 to $500,000 business. It's probably more like $1 million to $5 million business if we're ever lucky enough to get to that point and get it built that way. So we've all got goals, and that's kind of where mine lie. Everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for all the new subscribers. It's awesome to see people watching these videos, finding value in them. If you ever want to hear any certain video you've got that you'd want information on, ask me, email me, ask me to make another video, and I definitely will try to fit the time in to get it done as quickly as possible. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Hope you have a great week coming up, and talk to you soon. Kill it. Bye.